Good morning. I'm Hilary Wilson from EUMETSAT, and I'm the Sentinel-3 mission manager. Susanna Mecklenburg is my co-mission manager at ESA, and she sends her apologies. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here today. So I will do my best to present the ESA side of things as well as the EUMETSAT side of things. So, the Sentinel-3 constellation status. Sentinel-3A was launched in February 2016 and is in nominal operations since October 2017. Sentinel-3B is the newest baby of the Copernicus family, being launched only just over a year ago in April. It itself is now also in routine operations and has been since the end of March. So at the end of March, we reached the routine operations readiness review for Sentinel-3B, which means that the constellation of A and B is fully operational. So all of the instruments are nominal, the ground subsystems and the space segment are operating as expected extremely well. The core data products from Sentinel-3A and Sentinel-3B are all available, and you'll find lots of web links that you can click to your heart's content at when you get a copy of the presentation. So what was the main differences with Sentinel-3B? One of the very important things that was different for Sentinel-3 compared to Sentinel-1A, so Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, was that we operated a tandem phase, where we had Sentinel-3A and Sentinel-3B flying in a close formation 30 seconds apart. This was operated for a period of around 4 months in the commissioning phase, and has provided a unique data set that I'm sure you will all be really looking forward to getting your hands on. The phase finished in October, and then the satellite Sentinel-3B was manoeuvred into its normal operational position 140 degrees in advance of Sentinel-3A. And you'll, I'm sure, know that CMEMS was very instrumental in changing the phasing of the two satellites from 180 degrees to 140 degrees to improve the detection of mesoscale effects in the oceans. So since November last year, we have been operating with the nominal orbital position. So Sentinel-3 requires 2 satellites to fulfill the mission requirements, and this graphic, stolen from Estelle, it really shows you the importance of having that 2 satellite constellation. So on the top you'll see the Ultra-A coverage. On the bottom you'll see the Ultra-A and B coverage. So you can see within a 2 to 3 day period we get full coverage of the oceans. This is the same picture, but for SLSTR this time. Again, within 2 days, we have full coverage of the oceans. So I know everyone is usually really confused about the responsibility split between ESA and EUMETSAT. So some years ago, I came up with this graphic to try and explain who does what. So in the atmosphere, EUMETSAT is responsible for the NRT product production. As of yet, we do not have yet the atmospheric products, but hopefully they're coming soon. And ESA will be responsible for the production of the offline atmospheric products, were aerosol optical depth and fire radiative power. On the level 1 products, both ESA and EUMETSAT are doing a global coverage. So if you are interested in level 1 data, you can go to ESA or you can go to EUMETSAT. You will get the same data using the same algorithms. You may have small differences, for example, in auxiliary data that was used because the processing is in near real time, but everything else is the same. EUMETSAT, of course, is responsible for the bit that interests you, for the level 2 marine products, and ESA for the level 2 land and synergy products. So, going back to a bit more detailed information on the status of the system. So both satellites are performing well, and they both have an excellent availability. And the graph at the bottom shows you the availability that for Sentinel-3A on the left over the last sort of 6 months, and Sentinel-3B on the right. You can see small dips, for example, in Sentinel-3B in January, where we had an instrument anomaly where we lost about 20 hours of data for Thrall. But in general, the availability is close to 100%. The flight operations, which are performed by EUMETSAT, are also doing well. We do all the boring stuff that nobody ever wants to hear about, but are really, really critical to keeping the missions operational. So this is a chart showing the marine product availability over the last year. And on the right-hand side, you will suddenly see it gets a bit more busy when Sentinel-3B is added. So all the products are operational and available to you. On the land product side, it's a very similar graph with a few more colourful bars. But basically, the parity between the ESA and EUMETSAT is great, and the data is flowing very, very well. The use of the marine data is increasing, and again, this is a lovely chart that shows you the impact of Sentinel-3B, where in January, when the Sentinel-3 product started to be declared operational, there's a huge step change in the data. In general, the majority of the data are taken from the EUMETCAST system, which is EUMET's standard data dissemination mechanism, but also significant data volumes from our online data access, ODA and CODA, and also further offline data in the data center. And finally, we do have some level 2, AP, level 3 products which are produced by Kines and Aviso, and these are also now really starting to be used more widely. The similar graph for the land product dissemination. Again, you can see for every product that's stored in the archive, between sort of 6 and 7 copies of that product are downloaded by users. Except for the Synergy, which is a relatively new product, so its archive exploitation ratio is a little bit lower. But basically, all the data that is acquired on board and downlinked to the ground is made available to users. So this is a complicated chart, and it's a question that we often get asked is, how do I get the data? And then you present something like this and everyone goes, oh my goodness, I don't understand it. But actually it's relatively simple. You get your data in a different way depending on what your usage is. So on the top and the right-hand side, we have EUMETCAST, which is the satellite and terrestrial sort of broadcast system, where if you need data really, really quickly, near real time or short time critical, you can get it from EUMETCAST with minimal delays. I will talk about the Kio in a minute. Then we have the online data access mechanisms of ODA and CODA. The main difference between ODA and CODA is that ODA is restricted to members of Copernicus services and members of the Sentinel-3 validation team. So you're not having to vie with all other members of the general public in getting your data. You get a priority access. On the ODA, there's a rolling archive around about 1 month of data, and on the ODA, that's a little bit longer. On CODA, it's a little bit longer. We also have a particular instantiation of CODA called CODA Rep for reprocessing, and you can retrieve all the reprocessed data sets or the latest reprocessed data set, full mission reprocessing from CODA Rep. And every time we do a new reprocessing, it will replace the one that is currently there, so that we can give you a coherent long-term data series. We are now in the process of organising the reprocessing of Sentinel-3A and Sentinel-3B, and in particular for the tandem phase, so that users can receive that quickly. We have a very special service for Sentinel-3 validation team, which is extracting very small areas of interest. Many of our users who are doing particular investigations or running campaigns want only a very small amount of data. So we do a mini file extraction, which gives the data just from that area. So if you're interested in receiving that kind of service, please join the Sentinel-3 validation team. You can ask me how later. And finally, the EUMETSAT data center. This is where you will find a long-term archive of the data that was produced on the fly. So the near real-time, short-time critical and non-time critical that were produced at the time of the processing. So you could find 2 different copies of the data. For example, if we've reprocessed a product, you could find it on the CODA Rep. But the product that was produced at that time for the non-time critical So with perhaps a previous version of the algorithm can be found in UMARF. So depending on what you want, if you miss your month's time span on ODA, you can go to the UMARF and retrieve that data. If you're really looking for the absolute latest up-to-date algorithms, go to the reprocessing set of data and you'll find it there. And finally, you'll also know that there is the Wikio, which is one of the Copernicus DIAS, and this is now coming up as another way that you can receive data from Sentinel-3, or in fact from other Sentinel missions. You can go and take a look. Again, I can give you the details later. Wikio gives you the chance to not only access the data, but also to run hosted processing and do quite a lot of other things to discover the data. As always, we have user support, and you can go and talk to the ladies at our help desk. You can register to receive the data in any of the forms that you like. We don't restrict them, so if you want to receive data from EUMETSAT and you also want to receive it from Coda Rep, it's entirely up to you. ESA have similar data access mechanisms, again stratified per user type. They have the Copernicus Open Data Hub, which is for everybody, the members of the general public, anyone can go there. There is the Collaborative Hub, there is the International Hub, and of course the most important thing for you is the Copernicus Services Hub. Again, stratified so that you are not competing for bandwidth with everybody else. So there are a number of different tools that EUMETSAT have available, or information that you can find, and I've listed a few of these here. The most important one is, if you have any questions or any complaints, is the ops@eumetsat.int. If you go there, you will find somebody who can talk to you and can give you the answers you are seeking. We also have a lot of training, and there's a dedicated training portal that you can go and see what training is available. We're running regular things like MOOCs. We had an ocean MOOC, and that's available to download online. You can go to the particular website. All the information is there. We have a marine user forum, so you can go and chat with like-minded individuals who have a passion for the ocean. And we have a collaborative exchange, so you can find more information both from us and from you about Copernicus and Copernicus data. And finally, we have EUMETView, which gives you the ability to have a look at the different products that we have available. And at the moment, we have the chlorophyll concentration, a sort of RGB of the ULTRI data coverage, and the GRIST LTP SST product. So ESA have another similar set of tools, and this slide shows you the different ones. We have Sentinel-3 View, we have SNAP, we have the DDOP, Delayed Doppler Altimetry Studio. There is the Broad View Radar Altimeter Toolbox, or BRAT, and there's Synergize. So again, I encourage you to go and investigate these tools if you haven't done so already. They're a really rich resource of tools that you can use to investigate Sentinel-3 data further, and perhaps in ways that you wouldn't normally have thought of. You can also get regular information. Well, it's mostly regular. When Susanna and I managed to find 5 minutes to update the mission status reports, and you can go to this web address and get the latest ones. It just gives very brief information about what's going on with the mission and anything you should need to know. It's one page, so it's a good quick read. So the Sentinel-3 constellation is in excellent health, and we hope it long continues. All the level 1 and level 2 products, and indeed for the marine level 3 products, are operational. Near real time and the offline products available under the Copernicus free and open data policy. Everyone can get it. Everyone and their dog can get it. And that is a real benefit of Copernicus, that everything that we produce in Copernicus is made available to the entire universe. Oh, she's gone the wrong way. And the other important message for you to take home is we don't just have Sentinel-3A and 3B. We will have Sentinel-3C and 3D. Sentinel-3C is expected to be launched around about the 2023 timeframe. And Sentinel-5, 2025 or beyond. As long as the rest of our satellites are in good health, then we will continue to keep them in orbit. So thank you very much for your attention, and you will find Susanna and my email address there should you have any questions for us.